Hey friends, welcome to Biblical Studies Today Sermon Spotlights. It's January 24th. I am up on the 26th to preach at the Masters Community Church, my home church, and looking at the Gospel of John, chapter 13, verses 1 through 20. When I'm thinking about sermon spotlights, especially the pre-sermon spotlight, I'm thinking about literature, history, and theology, those three lenses to look at a particular passage. When we think about the literary features of John 13, 1 through 20, we are here in the broader perspective of John in the second half now of this gospel. It seems like the first 12 verses or first 12 chapters are one half, and then chapters 13 and following another major section of the book. And here we have this transition. And it's interesting here in this passage that we have this literary transition and a massive historical moment to think about the history of the passage. Here we're thinking back to the Passover festival, Exodus 12, where this is instituted. And here Jesus, in this final Passover meal that he eats with his disciples, does theology. So we have literature, history, and theology all wrapped up right here in this very passage. And the theological emphasis from the eternal Son in the flesh is the love of God. That he takes up the Passover, which certainly expresses God's love, God redeeming his people, his son out of Egypt, to think back to Exodus 4. But here, the eternal Son, speaking of the love of God, Jesus, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. There's a redundancy that John uses, and it's emphasizing the eternal Son's love, the love that Jesus has for his people. This is an overwhelming passage, and I hope to be able to explain that to the congregation, help them to understand God's love for them in a very practical way of Jesus serving. And that becomes the framework for the community. And here we have in John 13 a specification of God's love in the community's love for one another. We have Passover imagery taken up and now applied. Here's the love of God, so you love each other this same way. This helps to explain the emphasis in the New Testament on love for one another, how emphatic that's, how often we hear about that. So these are some of the ideas, and try to make application in terms of how we love one another. My church does that so well, it'll be preaching to the choir, but it will be necessary to state these ideas and stimulate us all the further. I'll check back in after Sunday and let you know how it goes. For more sermon spotlights, go to biblicalstudiestoday.com. For more information on biblical studies courses and preaching courses and degree programs, go to mbts.edu. We'll see you next time.